Hello, it's 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock here in Spain, which means only one thing. It's time for Facebook Live so we can help you improve your English. Good evening. Hello, wherever you are in the world. If this is your first time watching, my name's Craig from inglespodcast.com, where we have a podcast that's free for you to improve your English, and also the website mansioningles.com, where we have free courses and other material that will help you with your English. And with me this week is the lovely Lynn from putitlikethis.com. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Craig. Thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
You can call me lovely all the time. That's fine.
What can people expect to find when they go to your website, putitlikethis.com?
Well, if they come to putitlikethis.com, I'm an online teacher, and my speciality is tailor making courses for people. So if you have specific objectives in English, there's a lot of types of objectives that my students have. Some want to pass exams, some want to make presentations, some want to write better in English, lots of different objectives. But if you have a specific objective, then if you come to me, I'll create a course specially to help you find your own voice in English and achieve your objective. So if you're interested, you can go to putitlikethis.com and you find out more details about how I work.
Okay, putitlikethis.com. Fantastic. People are starting to join us live in the chat. Hello, Fabiana. Good afternoon to you. Hi, Carlos.
Hello.
And Hema. Hello. It's good to see you again too. Thanks for joining. And more people will be joining and watching us live very shortly, I suspect. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for spending time with us. So what's today's topic, Lynn?
Well, today's topic is how to tell anecdotes. And I think this is how to tell an entertaining anecdote.
Hopefully entertaining.
Yeah, because the thing is, I think everybody knows how to tell an anecdote in their own language. I mean, sometimes people are a little bit better at it than others. Yeah, some people are more talkative than others. But usually in your own language, you're able in a conversation, somebody says something and then you add something. And often we add anecdotes from our own experiences and that keeps the conversation going. But I don't know about you, Craig, but when I've been doing that in foreign languages, especially at the beginning, sometimes it's really difficult because you want to join in the conversation and you tell your anecdote, but you get so tongue-tied with the language that it takes all the fun out of the anecdote. Have you had that experience?
Yes, in Spanish, I get very self-conscious. I feel like my verb tenses are all over the place. I'm thinking about grammar, so I'm not engaging with the people who are listening to the anecdote. I lack confidence when I try to tell a story in Spanish. And I get very nervous when the attention's on me and I'm speaking for a long time. That's a problem as well. So hopefully we'll be able to help you with that today.
So that's the background to today, because I thought, there's a couple of things that you can, if you practice doing the two or three things, we've got 2 or 3 tips for you. And if you practice telling your anecdotes like that, it kind of just gives you maybe a little bit of a structure, and then you can begin to feel a little bit more confident. So that's what we're going to try to teach you today. I don't know whether we'll be successful, but we'll try.
Well, we'll know if we're successful because at the end of this session, we'll ask you to join us, come in to chat with us, and maybe tell us a short anecdote in English of a story that you can think of that's true for you. So Sandra, Francesca, Christine, hi, Bernadita, Maru, if you're watching for the whole session, hopefully at the end you'll be able to come in and tell us an anecdote of yours, and that will be fun.
Great. And if you haven't got the confidence maybe, or you don't really feel like coming live with us in this lesson, I mean, we really like it when you're brave enough to come live into the lesson. But if for those of you who maybe don't feel quite so comfortable with that, or you'd like to try to practice, then we've decided to give you another alternative. So at the bottom, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a HTTPS address going across. Put it like this: .padlet.org/lin/anecdote.
Slosh or slash?
Slash. And if you go to that address, then you will come onto a web page where you can make a post. And you can make a post. You just click on the little pink button that's at the bottom right hand side. You put in the city where you are, because I've put it on the background of a map of the world. And you can either record your anecdote by voice, or you can record a little video of yourself if you want to. It's very simple to use. And if you can tell us and share one of your anecdotes, then next week, Craig and I, during the week, we'll try to listen to it. And the nice thing about that is that we can all share and we can listen to each other's anecdotes from around the world. And you can make some little comments and things, and we'll try to see what we can listen to and see if we can give you a little bit of feedback. But it's to give you an opportunity to practice. Okay.
Yeah, it's really important, because it's great that you're listening to us and hopefully you'll learn some things. But if you can actually speak and practice your English, that's the best for your fluency and the best for your English. So try and practice if you can.
Exactly. So let's get going. Let's get cracking. All right. So we're thinking, first of all, we have to think of what anecdotes are we going to talk about. So we're going to keep it really simple. So I want you to think of the 5 human senses that we have. So we have, well, maybe you can tell me, what are the 5 senses in the chat file? Can you tell us what are the 5 human senses? In actual fact, I've discovered by reading that there are more than 5 senses. Have you heard that before, Craig?
Well, I've heard of the Sixth Sense.
No, there's even more.
Bruce
apparently.
Willis, was it, in the Sixth Sense?
That was a movie.
But there's some spiritual kind of psychological sense apart from the physical senses we have, the main 5.
But there are psychologists now who say there are many, many more senses. But anyway, we all know the 5. But it seems that in the chat file, nobody's... Wake up. Come on, tell us. What are the 5 senses? What are the 5 human senses? There is...
sight is one.
Sight and and come on, we're giving you lots of clues. Where are the answers? Taste. Well done, Maru. Well, thank
Maru's
you, Maru.
Got taste. That's one.
Maru's got taste.
We need 4 more.
The things that you eat, the way we taste things. Taste is one. Touch. Well done, Maru. Touch.
That's 2.
Ophelia has said smell, correct? Good. Hearing, sight, touch, and taste. Well done. Well done, Ophelia. Thank you. Okay. So smell, hearing, sight, touch, and taste. So maybe now, while the class is going, you can all be thinking, have you got a little story, a little anecdote about those 5 things? It could be something that you've seen in the past that you've never forgotten, or a smell that is particularly important to you, or it could be a taste that you hated once, that you tasted and you hated it, or you loved it. You might have a little story about those 5 things. So you can be thinking, and in the meantime, Craig and I are going to demonstrate a couple of anecdotes. Now we're going to start off, and I'm going to tell you an anecdote, and Craig will tell you an anecdote, and then we're going to think about how did we talk about those anecdotes. So Craig, which anecdote of mine would you like to hear first?
Do I have to choose a sense?
You can choose a sense. Choose a sense.
Smell.
Smell. All right. Smell. Well, I actually don't have a great sense of smell, I don't think. Yeah, I think some people have a much more acute sense of smell. And I'm not sure I have a really good, sharp sense of smell. But there is a smell that I can remember with every pore of my body. and that happened to me. I think I must have been, it was when I was living alone. So it was before I was married, and I had my own flat. And one day in the flat, I had a problem in the kitchen, and the problem was that the water in the sink wouldn't go away anymore. So it wasn't draining properly out of the sink, and I had all of this stale water, and it had been happening maybe for a week or two, but I hadn't really paid it much attention. But anyway, the water was going away again, slower and slower and slower, and I knew that I had to do something. And I think you do know, Craig, because we know each other quite well, but I'm quite handy. I always like to try to do things on my own, even though I'm not an expert. So I thought, this can't be really difficult. You must just get a bucket and you go under the sink, and you know there is a U-tube. So I thought, I'll just unscrew the U-tube. Everything will fall in the bucket. I'll clean the U-tube because it's obviously blocked. And then I screw it back on and everything will be fine. So there I was, Miss DIY. And I thought, I'm going to get this. I've got this. No problem. So I get my bucket and I go under and I start unscrewing it. And when it unscrewed and the U-tube and the water fell in the bucket, the smell was so disgusting. That suddenly the smell, I don't know how to describe the smell. It was sour, it was acrid, and it really made me gag. Now, I don't know if you know that phrase, but when you gag, it means you want to be sick. And it made me so ill. The whole smell impacted me so much that I had to jump up. Of course, I banged my head on the kitchen because I was underneath. I mean, it was comical. Banged my head and ran to the bathroom. And I was literally physically sick with the smell. I actually vomited. And that is the worst smell in my entire life that I've ever had. And it gave me such a physical reaction. So I've never, ever forgotten it.
Did you fix the sink?
No.
You phoned a plumber?
Because I couldn't go back to it. No, actually, to be fair, I called my boyfriend. And I said, "You got to come and help me. I've done something with the sink and I can't approach it." So my poor boyfriend, he had to repair it. But I'd never do that again. I'm never going to go anywhere near a U-tube because the smell was so disgusting.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. And what about you? I
have got an anecdote about smell, which is also a negative smell, which is interesting because you said your sense of smell is not very acute. It's not very keen. And it's interesting that you chose a bad smell. And I've chosen a bad smell as well.
Really?
Shall I tell it now?
Yeah.
So this is interesting because recently I recorded a podcast with Reza and we were talking about money idioms. And the two idioms that we were talking about, one was throwing good money after bad, and one was throwing money down the drain. Lynn's just spoken about the drain in her sink. So when you waste money, you throw it down the drain. And if you throw good money after bad, you keep spending money, but you're losing it because you're not spending it wisely. You're not spending it in a clever way. I used to work in a pub back in the UK, and there was a regular who came in the pub who bought and sold cars, not new cars, second-hand cars. And I needed a car. And everybody in the pub knew this man. And he said he had a good car for sale at a very, very good price. And I bought it. And I thought it was a wonderful car because it had electric windows, because in those days, back in the UK, the windows you used to wind up, and it had electric windows. It had a fantastic stereo system. It looked really good. I loved the color. It was a lovely red. I paid him the money. And 1 week later, as I was driving along the road, there was this horrible smell of burning oil and black smoke coming out the back of the car. And when oil burns, it's a disgusting smell that actually goes into the car as well. So you can smell it inside the car. You could in this car. Car. So I took it back to him and he said, "Yeah, I know that problem. I can fix it." So I had to pay him more money, £200 more. And he fixed it. And then something else went wrong with the car and I had to pay him more money. So I was throwing good money after bad, and I could not get rid of the smell of that oil, the burning oil smell from the
And
car,
that's really
because it was
unpleasant if
inside.
you're,
It's horrible.
and that's really unpleasant if you're using the car all the time, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So don't buy a secondhand car from a man in the pub. That's the point of the story.
Okay. All right. So our anecdotes, of course, were a bit longer, but that's because we're native speakers, isn't it? But there were 3 things that we did in those anecdotes, which are typical of anecdotes. So do you want to tell them the first thing?
Yeah, the first one is set the scene. So it was very clear that Lynn was in her flat living alone, and she decided to fix the problem with her plumbing, problem with her sink. So you could picture Lynn in her flat by herself with her tools, getting ready to go under the sink and work on the pipes. And in a similar way, I took you back to when I lived in the UK. I was working in a pub. There was this man in the pub who sold cars. So it was very clear from the beginning where we were, and we set the scene of the anecdote.
And there's some language that we can use to do that. So I don't know, did you put this on a banner, Craig, or not?
I've got some of it, I think.
So sometimes we say how old we were when it happened. That's very common. So I think I said I think I must have been about 5. I must have been
bit young to have a boyfriend.
No, I was older then. And also to repair my sink and
to
live
repair
on my
your
own.
sink.
No. All of my anecdotes now is I must have been about 21.
Yeah, me too.
No. But sometimes if you want to say the age, then we instead of saying I was, we say I must have been about. I must have been about. Now the pronunciation as well is a bit tricky there, because we don't say I must have been about. We put must have together and we say must have. And then instead of saying been, we say been. I must have been about 5. I must have been about 20. Okay, so that's one of them. Or you can start to say things like, this happened to me, I think, 10 years ago, or about 15 years ago. This happened to me. Now, these ways, of course, you can say it in other ways. You can say 5 years ago, or you can say I was 15. But of course, it's not as interesting, is it? It hasn't got that.
It doesn't take you back in time.
It's too factual, right?
Yeah.
So this is when we set the scene, we try to make these kinds of phrases because they sound more natural and they sound more entertaining. I mean, they're not that entertaining, but they sound more entertaining. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And I think there's another one. Did you have a few months or a few years back? So instead of saying ago, we say a few months back or a few years back. And that's more colloquial than saying the word ago. And did we have one more? Yeah. We have this little phrase, I was with. So if you're setting the scene, you might say you were with certain people. I think. And then sometimes when you're giving yourself time to think, a little phrase that we often say is, if I remember rightly, if I remember rightly. So that means, if I remember correctly. So you're sort of apologizing in advance, because we know that in anecdotes, we always exaggerate, don't we, Craig?
Yes. I've exaggerated millions and trillions of times. Interestingly, in American English, I very often hear people saying, I want to say it was 10 years ago, or I want to say it was when I was 11. I want to say. And it's very similar, I think, to if I remember rightly. It's a very American way of saying a similar thing. I want to say it was 12 years ago.
Which means I think it was.
I'm
not sure.
Years ago. I'm not sure, but I think it was. I want to say it was when I was 6, for example.
Yeah, well, that's easier to say, isn't it, than if I remember rightly. But British people don't really say "I want to say," do we? We
No,
don't use that. But
you might hear it though.
for those of you who have more contact with American speakers, use "I want to say" because it sounds easy.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. So that was the first tip. So the first tip, remember, try to set the scene. Okay. All right.
Number 2.
And the second tip.
Be descriptive. Use lots of descriptive adjectives to paint a picture for the people listening to your anecdote. And I think we had a very clear picture of Lynn being in the sink, the way she described the smell and the way she described herself gagging and feeling sick and being sick and being completely feeling really, really bad about this smell that was coming out of the drain. And I described the black smoke coming out of the car, the electric windows, trying to make it very clear for you what the car was like. So be descriptive as possible. Flower your language with descriptive adjectives to paint a picture, a verbal picture of what you're telling.
And we also, when we're being descriptive, we also exaggerate in anecdotes. So instead of saying it was awful, I say it was absolutely disgusting, the smell, right? So instead of saying it was bad, it was absolutely disgusting. Instead of saying it's good, you say it's amazing. It was amazing. It was fantastic, right? So when we tell anecdotes, we do try to use quite extreme adjectives. And the function of those extreme adjectives is it just maintains the interest of the listener. Yeah, because that's the key to a good anecdote, is to keep the people listening to you. And you keep the people listening to you by being descriptive and by exaggerating a little bit. If you're very factual, of course, my anecdote, Craig's anecdote, there's nothing really essentially funny about our anecdotes, is there? It was funny to us, but it wasn't really. It's not going to go away with the. Is there a Nobel Prize for comedy? No.
No, we're not going to get any prizes.
We're not going to get any prizes for comedy. But because you can dress up your language and make it sound more extreme, that is what makes it entertaining to listen to, and people are happy to listen to it.
And also you want to use lots of stress and intonation with these adjectives. And we've got some examples here. So you can say something was good, or you can say something was incredible. But if you say, oh, the film was incredible, it doesn't really communicate how good it was. And if you say the film was incredible, with that stress, with that intonation, with that emphasis, that's communicating a lot more how you felt, your feeling about the film.
Yeah,
it was absolutely amazing. It was unbelievable. That stress really communicates something.
Yeah, and we play a lot with the pronunciation, don't we? We spend a lot of time pronouncing those descriptive words. So, for example, you can say it was enormous rather than just saying it was big. It was enormous.
Was tiny. Rather than just small.
Exactly. So you have to be a little bit of an actor as well, and you have to emphasize and use those extreme descriptive adjectives. Right. And then
before we move on, we've got one or two comments. Madhu's saying that she didn't know must have been. Yeah, that because these modal verbs of probability, like must, could, might, may, there's no past tense, Madhu. So you can't say musted to put that in the past. So if you're speaking about the past, you need that have after the modal verb. So if you're almost 100% sure, you can say must have been. If you're 50% sure, could have been, might have been, or may have been. And if you're nearly 100% sure it is not, so the negative, the opposite of must, is can't. So can't have been. It can't have been an expensive car. So these modal verbs go in the past using that have.
But please, I do want to point out as well, if you can just go back to the must have been, the pronunciation, because Craig has pronounced them very clearly so that he's emphasizing the structure, must have been. But no English person says must have been. We always put the have with the modal. So we say must have, could have, should have, can't have.
And it's difficult to catch, isn't it? Difficult to hear.
Yeah. And we never say been, we say been. So this is something that you can practice. You need to practice, because you hardly hear it when English people speak, because they say, he must have been 6. He can't have been 6. He should have been better behaved. He might have gone to the cinema. He could have gone to the cinema. He can't have gone to the cinema. Okay, so you always have that of, and then of course I was changing the verbs there. Instead of saying been, I was saying gone. So let's try again. He must have been 6. He can't have been 6. He might have been 6. The thing is, you can't use should with an age, can you? You wouldn't say he should have been. No, but he should have been.
Should have been more careful.
Oh, should have been more careful. Should have been more careful. Have been. Should have been more careful. So that's something you've got to practice.
And it's not only rising tone, because intonation, of course, is up and down, Meryl. So you want to go up and you want to go down. And listen for that when you listen to native speakers and they're telling a story. Kevin Hart, the comedian, the American comedian, if you watch or study the way Kevin Hart tells a story, you can see everything we're talking about, but in a much more professional, polished way. He's fantastic at using intonation and stress. He's fantastic at getting people's attention and keeping their attention. And he's a very entertaining and very funny storyteller. So if you want to laugh and learn some English, go to YouTube and search for Kevin Hart. He's very funny. It's not really your forte, Christine, but you're going to try and record and upload something fantastic.
Brilliant.
We'll look forward to listening to your anecdote, and I'm sure it will be up to scratch, which means at the correct level, and very good.
Great. Good. So we got one more tip, right? So just to recap, first tip was set the scene. Second tip was be descriptive. And the third tip, Craig?
Be emphatic. Be emphatic. Bring the important points and the emphasis to the beginning of a sentence. And there's certain grammar that we can use to emphasize things. One way to do that is by using cleft constructions or cleft sentences. And you can say that you went to see a wonderful film and the film was amazing. The action was the thing that amazed me most. But if you want to emphasize the amazement, you bring the verb amaze to the front of the sentence. What amazed me most was blah, 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 blah. So you're bringing the verb or the subject that you want to emphasize to the beginning of the construction.
And what that does actually is it catches the listener's attention, right? So if you think your listeners are beginning to fall asleep and you say, what happened was, and then they're all waiting to find out what happened.
The most surprising thing was blah, 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 blah.
Or the thing I remember most was, so when we do that, we kind of bring the attention back to us and people are waiting for what's coming next. Whereas when you're writing, maybe you tell it in chronological order, and then it's a little bit more, well, it can be a bit more dull, actually, because you can also use cleft constructions in writing now and again.
Yeah, depending what you're writing. If it's an article and the purpose of the writing is entertaining and getting the reader's attention, then yes, you can use these cleft sentences in an entertaining article, for example, but maybe not so necessary in an essay or a report.
Yeah, that's true. And then there's another thing we have another tip that might help you to make things more emphatic is we have a few expressions that are quite common when you're telling anecdotes. So we thought we might share these with you. What you can do here is you can maybe try to choose one that you think you can imagine yourself saying and just try to practice using that one and see if you can push it into your anecdote. So you can say things like, you might find this hard to believe, but, or you can say, you'll never guess what I did. You'll never guess, Craig, what I did. I thought little me, never done any plumbing in her life. I thought I can repair the sink, no problem. Right? So you'll never guess what I thought I could do. Okay, so you see how I can push that in and it helps the anecdote flow. Or I can say, can you believe that? Can you believe that?
Can you believe he said that to me? Can you believe he did that? You can imagine how I felt when a car I thought was going to cost £800 cost me nearly 1,500. You can imagine how I felt when I realized I'd paid too much money for it, for example.
Must have been dreadful. Must have been. And did you keep the car very long? I never asked. I want to know. Or did you sell it to somebody else?
No, I sold it back to the same man.
Okay, that's all right then.
So yeah, he did give me the money back for it, but not all the money that I had spent on it. But yeah, you learn from experience. Experience is a great teacher.
Right. So just to recap again, 3 tips: set the scene, be descriptive, and try to be emphatic. Now, Craig and I are going to tell you another anecdote. And this time you can maybe listen and see if you can spot some examples of how we're using those 3 things. If you're quick enough, you can maybe type them in the chat file. And then at the end of the anecdotes, we can see if you've picked up those 3 things, if you can see the way that we're using those things in our speech. And then after that, we'll see if anybody's brave enough to try one with us.
Yes, already I'm going to put the link that you need if you want to come in and join us and tell us an anecdote. We've got the link you need at the bottom of the screen, and it will also appear in a second in the chat. So if you want to come in and tell us a story, here is the link you need. And why not come in and practice your English and tell us a story? Hopefully a true story, something that's happened to you.
Okay, anecdotes are usually, well, they're always true, aren't they? Anecdotes are something that's happened to you. They might be exaggerated, but they did happen. Yeah. Okay, what would you like to go next, Craig? What would you like to? You've got 4 senses left, so you can choose one of the others. You did smell.
Okay, so
have you got one?
Let me have a look, because I did think of an idea. Oh yeah. This is a true story, and it's actually a time when I nearly died.
Oh my goodness. Seriously?
Yes, seriously.
Wow.
I used to work on a farm. I used to be a farm, and I worked abroad farming cotton. Now, cotton in Spanish, if you're a Spanish speaker, is algodón, but this is a cotton shirt, but the cotton that you grow in the field looks very different to this. The cotton plant has pods, P-O-D, a pod on it, and it's green, and it's the size of a small tennis ball. And when the pod opens, the actual cotton is very light and fluffy. And you also say in Spanish algodón, but it's a completely different thing. It's in English cotton wool. It looks like cotton wool.
Okay.
And when you pick cotton, you've got these huge machines that go through the field, and they're very noisy, and they pick the cotton. And when they get to the end of the field, a tractor with a big trailer that looks like a huge basket waits, and then the cotton is lifted up on hydraulics and thrown into the wagon like a cage. And then a tractor takes the wagon to the cotton press. And the cotton press is huge, because the cotton press takes all of the cotton and makes it into a cotton bale, B-A-L-E, like a cube or a rectangle that you then sell. So my job was to drive the tractor. I waited at the end of the field. The cotton was tipped in. Now, this light, fluffy cotton at the end of the day, when the sun goes down, gets very damp and moist. It absorbs the moisture from the air. So sometimes when the wagon went up, the cotton didn't fall into the cotton press.
It got
So
stuck.
it got stuck at the top.
Stuck.
So what did we
Yeah.
do? We had to climb up and kick and push this cotton down, and very slowly it slid into the cotton press. One day I was doing that. It was late at night. It was maybe 9, 10 o'clock. It was already dark. I was trying to push it down. And then I was very tired. And what we used to do sometimes, we'd jump into the cotton press because it was lovely and fluffy and bouncy, and we jumped in. But I wasn't thinking, and I jumped in before the cotton fell. And then about half a ton of cotton fell on top of me. And I was working with someone who was operating the cotton press. And I thought, he's going to come and he's going to fire me in a second. It's okay. And the thing I remember most was the silence, because when I was at the top, before I jumped in, there was the noise of the tractor. There was the hydraulic of the cotton press. There was lots of noise. And suddenly I couldn't hear anything. And I was completely calm and I didn't panic. But my friend didn't come.
Oh
I couldn't
gosh,
breathe.
Craig.
And I felt
would you
the
have been
weight
pressed
of the
into
cotton.
a little ball? Would you have been pressed into a little
No,
ball?
because that happens after. But because it was so heavy and it was so moist with the moisture,
You could have suffocated, couldn't you?
I couldn't breathe. I tried to move. I couldn't move. It was pressing down on me. And I didn't know, but my friend was up the top looking for me, but the cotton press is huge. And suddenly, apparently, he told me afterwards that because I started panicking when I couldn't breathe, I'm trying to get some air, he saw the cotton on the top move just a little bit when I started panicking. And then he knew where I was, and he pulled me out in time.
Oh my goodness,
Just
that must
in
have been
time.
terrifying, was it?
Only at the end, because at the beginning I wasn't panicking when it first happened, but then when I realized he hadn't found me, then I thought, that's it. I have to move. I can't get out of here. I'm stuck. Then I started to panic. And a few seconds after I started panicking and moving, he knew where I was and he found me.
And he found you. My goodness, that's not a nice way to die. in a bale of cotton.
In a bale of cotton.
You could have chosen a better, more exciting way to die, Craig.
But very, very eco-friendly.
Probably.
Very green.
But you have to be careful. I mean, those are like industrial accidents that happen, aren't they? And they can be very serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
which sense was that?
Well, that was obviously the hang on, I knew what it was. That was the sound, because you said it was completely silent. It was a sound. That's right.
Did I paint a picture for you?
Oh,
were you there with me?
I was there with you.
Good.
And with the sound as well. That was amazing. Well, maybe we should just wait and see. Did any of you recognize any of the emphatic structures or the descriptive structures or the setting the scene? Did you recognize any of that? Maybe you can tell us in the chat.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Christine was asking for the name of the comedian that you mentioned earlier, and Andrea helped her. I think you said it was Kevin Hart, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll find a video for you, Christine. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
So that you can see. Okay, yeah. There's a video of him.
And Craig, do you ever have nightmares about that? Do you ever you never dreamt about it again? Do you not get frightened now when you have absolute silence? Does it frighten you?
Sometimes I wake up and I'm eating the pillow, but apart from that,
nothing.
No, I'm joking. No, it never. No, it doesn't. But it is one of two close brushes with death that I've had. There was another time as well that I won't tell you about now, but it's scary. Yeah, it's scary at the time, but I don't get nightmares about it.
Yeah.
Carmen,
well done, Carmen. The thing I remember most was the silence. And that's an example of one of those cleft sentences where he said,
Because
the
I could
thing
have
I
said,
remember most.
the silence was the thing that I most remember,
Mm-hmm.
which is a normal sentence, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But to get your attention, to draw you in, I reversed it. Very good, Carmen. Well spotted. Very
Well
good.
spotted. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if nobody else has seen,
tell us
shall I
one of
tell you mine?
yours? Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, well, I'll tell you mine about sight, because this is a nice one, and it's a pleasant one. It's not a bad experience, because you had a bad sound and we both had bad smells.
Yeah, let's have a nice one for a change.
But we've got a nice one. This is about the sight that I will never, ever forget. And this happened. Now, I was a little bit older than 21. So I
22.
must have been in my early 30s, I think it was, when I was in my early 30s. And it was a time in my life where I was actually single. So I didn't have a family, and I was doing everything that I wanted to do. I was being very selfish because I could be. So I was traveling where I wanted to go, and I could do anything that I wanted to do. And then I got this notion in my head, and I thought, you know what, I really want to go, because I love Africa. You know that I love Africa. So yeah. I thought, I really want to go to Africa, and I want to climb Kilimanjaro. So I saved up money and I booked this trip, and I had to do a training program to try to be fit enough to climb Kilimanjaro, because I approached Kilimanjaro just like I approached repairing my sink. You know, I'd never mountain climbed in my life before, but I thought I can do that. Well, actually, you can because Kilimanjaro is not a really difficult climb, technically. The problem with Kilimanjaro is the altitude. So you have to be quite fit, because there's not a lot of oxygen.
It's nearly 6,000 meters, isn't it?
It's 6,000, and so it's very, very high, and so you run out of oxygen. So anyway, so I went off to Africa, and I was in my group, and I started to climb Kilimanjaro, and I was doing okay. And then we were on the final ascent, and the final bit, we were already at I think it was about 4,500 meters. So we were already depleted with oxygen, and some people were having altitude sickness. I had a bit of altitude sickness too. But we were doing the final ascent, and you climb up Kilimanjaro for the final ascent. You start climbing at midnight. And that's because once you get to the top, you have to get back down, because you can't stay at the top because it's too dangerous. So you have to get back down during the day, right? So the idea is that you start climbing at midnight, and then you get to the top more or less about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And then you have time to be able to come down again. And the danger is actually the altitude, the lack of oxygen. You have to get lower so that you can have more oxygen. So we're climbing during the night, and it was horrible. It was so tiring. And the thing that was, I mean, you might find this hard to imagine, but, you know, I was in my early 30s, but when you are walking or trying to just climb, I mean, it wasn't a difficult climb. You're just walking, right? So basically you're walking. Okay, you're walking up a bit steeply, but you're walking. And it's really hard maybe for you to imagine, but I was in my early 30s and I was fit. But when you are climbing at 5,000 meters, you are walking like a 90-year-old. You literally cannot make a big stride. You're just shuffling like an old person, a little bit here and a little bit there, and you are exhausted. And this went on, and it was like 12 o'clock we started, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Some of the people were already giving up and going back. And you saw like the guides taking people back, and you keep going. And I'm thinking, I've come all this way and I've got to get to the top. And it was getting really, really hard. And then we reached it wasn't the final summit, it's the one before the final summit. And I mentalized myself, and I thought, I have done such a stupid thing. I should not have come here and done this. I feel terrible. I feel in danger. I think I need to go home right now. And I mentalized, I'm going to get to this point, which is called Gilman's Point, but it's not the final summit. But I'm going to get to Gilman's Point. I'm going to rest, and then I'm going back. So I kept going, very, very slowly. And then eventually you get to Gilman's Point. And when I got to Gilman's Point, finally we were allowed to sit down. And I sat down. And the really weird thing is that as soon as you sit down, you get oxygen because you're not moving. And suddenly, and I went literally from being 90 to being in my early 30s again in the space of 5 minutes. Your whole body just recovers because you're not moving or exerting yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, so I went from feeling really bad to feeling fantastic.
And you wanted to carry on?
Right at that moment, the sun came up. And the sun came up and I saw the view. And you've got to imagine you're at 5,000 meters. And way, way down, the sight I'll never, ever forget, way down below was all of the clouds. So it was like the kind of view that you have when you're actually in an aeroplane, right? Yeah. The cloud was all below, and then the sun was coming up, and all the cloud was tinged with pink from the sun. And it was the most amazing, beautiful sight that I have ever seen. And the sense with the sight, that this vision of this beauty, because it was so beautiful, you were just overwhelmed with the beauty. And it gave me such a sense of peace. And at that moment, I literally thought I could die now and I would be happy. This is the place where I want to die. Because but it wasn't because I felt bad. It was because I felt so, I don't know, it was a spiritual thing. You just felt so at one with the world and the environment. And it was just such a beautiful vision of the world. And that is my enduring memory of climbing Kilimanjaro. And after I saw the vision, I've got a beautiful photograph of it. But when I see the photograph, it's not the same as the vision that I have in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, of course, because I had my energy, I actually continued, and I did get to the very top.
You got to the top, to the summit.
I did get to the top, thank God. Otherwise, I'd have to go back. But no, I got to the top and I went down. But the experience at the top was not my most lasting experience. My most lasting experience was this, where I sat on the top of the mountain and I was like really down. And then suddenly the sun just came up and there was this beautiful sunrise over the clouds. It was just amazing. So I can recommend anybody who wants to go to Kilimanjaro. And when I'm ready to die, that's where I'm going back.
Well, good luck getting to the top when you're 90.
I know.
So if you were paying attention to Lynn's lovely story, can you give us some examples of language that she used to set the scene? And there was so much descriptive language in there. Can you remember any descriptive expressions that Lynn used? Or any parts of the story in which Lynn was emphatic about what she saw? So that was definitely connecting to the sense of sight, wasn't it? That was definitely a visual story. You were with Lynn at the top looking at that view. So any language that you remember from that story, let us know in the chat. Mm-hmm. And I was there with you. I was there going up to the summit of Kilimanjaro. Mm-hmm. And Christine's a captivating story. Yeah, that was very, very well told. That was very descriptive.
I think Hima has found, you see at the beginning, I was saying I was in my early 30s. I think I also was saying I was single. I could do what I wanted to do. I mean, that's not really, it's not essential to the story, but it kind of makes it more engaging. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And you said it was a time in my life when I could do what I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Well done, madam.
It was a time in my life. Well done. Okay. Now we're running out of time. Now
we are.
I am aware that we are native speakers. Now, of course, we're native speakers, so of course we can do it better probably, than many of you. However, you've got some tips. So is anybody brave enough to come and give it a go? Just a little go. I'm sure we'll all be delighted to hear. And remember, if anybody is brave enough to join us, they can come in. Are you putting the link now to come into StreamYard?
Yeah, it's on the bottom of the screen. It's also in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. She's a very good storyteller. The really weird thing was, there was so much descriptive language in there, the beautiful sights. I'm struggling to remember the adjectives you used, but the clouds, when you're up above the clouds, the sunset, you described the colors of the sun on the clouds. It was very vivid, very descriptive.
Okay, so
it was the
Craig,
most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's it. And Craig has put in the chat there the StreamYard if you want to join us now live. But remember, if you want to maybe have a go and listen to yourself first before you share with the rest of us, you can still do that by posting a story on the Padlet wall. Is anybody trying to come in right now, Craig?
Not yet, no.
Should I share my screen and show people how they can post on the Padlet wall?
Yeah, let me put the link in the chat room as well for people who want to do the Padlet after the fact. When we finish, you can record a video or record an audio, and Lynn will explain how to do that on her Padlet board.
So let me share my screen. And I'll share this one. Can you see that?
Not yet. Hasn't come up yet.
Oh, sorry. I have to say. Sorry. I beg your pardon. Here, share. Can you see now?
Yeah, it's up there now. Yeah.
Okay. So you can see I've made this map of the world black and white. And at the bottom right-hand corner, you can zoom in or you can zoom out, because you guys are all over the world. So it would be lovely if we have anecdotes from all over the world. Now, if you want to share your anecdote, you see this pink button in the top right-hand corner, and all you have to do is click on that, and then you can make a post. First of all, you need to say where you are. So, for example, I am in Valencia. Okay, you click on Valencia, and then you see that it is putting a little pin in Spain on Valencia. And then all you have to do here is click on this little icon with the 3 dots. This is the More button. And when you click on that, you will be able to either open the audio recorder if you just want to record your voice, or if you want us to see you as well, which would be very nice, then you can open your camera, your video recorder. Okay, so I'll just show you with the audio recorder. When you open the audio recorder, you get this little window. You click on this little button here, and then it will start recording you. When you're finished, you click stop. You can play back and save, which is at the top. So you can listen to yourself to see if you're happy with yourself. And if you're happy with yourself, you say save. And then you say publish. And then you've got a little anecdote, and other people can come to the wall and they can listen to your anecdote. So we can listen to each other's anecdotes, okay? And we can comment on them. If you want to make a comment to somebody, you can put a comment on there as well. Okay? Yeah. Right, so I'll stop that now. How do I stop sharing? Stop sharing. Okay.
I will also leave an anecdote, and I will tell you about the first time I arrived in Valencia, which is an interesting story. So I'll record that after this Facebook Live, and I'll put that up there. And Mado is going to try and do it, but no promises there. You're being very hesitant.
Oh, come on, Mado.
You're going to try to do it. So it'll be interesting to hear people's different anecdotes.
Mm-hmm. And you can have little short anecdotes as well. Have you got a short anecdote, Craig? Because we did very long ones because we wanted to show you. Have you got a short anecdote to finish with?
I can tell you quite an embarrassing anecdote that happened to me when I first started teaching. I used to work for a company called Berlitz. It was probably 25 or 26 years ago. I don't know if you know the company Berlitz. It's not so popular now as it used to be, but Berlitz has a system where every level has a book, a very thick book. And the system is the teacher reads the book and the students repeat and repeat and repeat. So you're learning like a parrot, which is quite effective for beginners, but very, very boring when you get past pre-intermediate level. And I taught lots of different levels. And one day I had a new class. So I went into the class, a beginner's class, with my beginner's book that was this thick. And I opened the first page and everybody was smiling because it was a first class and everyone was quiet and respectful. And I was smiling because it was my first class. And I looked at the first page and the first page said, "This is a pen." Repeat, "This is a pen." And everybody said, "This is a pen." And I said, "Is this a pen?" Repeat, "Is this a pen?" "Yes, it is. Yes, it is." And I continued for 5 minutes. "This is a pencil. Is this a pen?" And everybody was repeating. And then I turned the page and it was time to ask individual students a question. And I looked at the first person and I said, "Is this a pen?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, it looks like a pen to me." Because I'd taken my beginner's book into an advanced class. And they were too polite to tell me. And they just sat there watching me do a beginner's class for an advanced group. And I was so embarrassed. And I said, "I'll just be 1 minute." And I went outside the class, got the advanced level book and came back in the class and started again. True story.
Yeah,
my most embarrassing moment as a teacher.
As a teacher.
I've had more embarrassing moments, but not as a teacher.
No. Yeah, I didn't ask to do a class on embarrassing moments because I think we all have many of those. And I thought, do I really want to share my embarrassing moments with everybody?
Yeah, maybe not.
I only share them with my close friends. Okay, everyone. Well, I think that's all we've got time for, isn't it, Craig, really?
Yes, we will look forward to listening to your anecdotes on Padlet. So please post them there after this. And if this is the first time watching us, Lynn will be back in 2 weeks. Next week at the same time, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Spanish time, I'll be with Monica for another session. And if you want to study English for free, on mansioningles.com, we have courses. We have a bi-monthly newsletter. Every 2 weeks, we send you a newsletter by email, and there's lots of material there for you to study at home. Or if you prefer listening, we have a podcast that's also free, and you can find that at inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And putitlikethis.com, that's my business. And I'm an online language teacher, exclusively online now, really. And I tailor make courses for you. So if you have a specific objective that you'd like to achieve in English, then come to me and then I'll create a course specially for you and we'll work specifically on your objective. Okay, so if you go to my website, you can find more details of what I do there.
Before we say goodbye, one final thing. I'm going to post a link in the chat to a podcast that we created focusing on how to tell a story in English. So we also, not Lynn and I do the podcast with a friend called Reza. And there are lots of tips there, including the 3 tips that we've shown you today. But we also look at verb tenses and other ways of telling stories in English. So you might be interested to listen to that. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week and we'll see you again soon.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing anyway today. And I do hope that you share some of the anecdotes with us on the Padlet wall. That would be great if you could. Okay, then take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.